Welcome to the Disneyland Forever podcast, your source for all things from the happiest place on earth. For more updates, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Disneyland Forever, and you can check out our website, disneylandforever.com. Hey everyone.
Hello.
It's Jordan.
And Daniel.
And this week, it was a fun week for us. We had a non-Disney trip for a few days.
We just got back from Las Vegas, drove down there.
It was one of the reasons why on DCA's 25th birthday, we didn't post anything, because we drove down there, and by the time we got there, we basically just kind of fell asleep.
Yeah.
And then the problem was also the bed in our hotel was not comfortable.
Yeah, maybe the other ones in the hotel too. We didn't try those.
No, but it was not very comfortable, and so neither of us slept particularly great.
No, none of the nights. And the tub in the shower didn't drain at all the first morning. It was
great.
It was fun to try to take a very quick shower before the whole tub filled up.
Fun times.
Yeah.
We actually like going down to Vegas, and we have to mention it sometimes to people who think that we only do Disney-related trips. Like, hey, this one had nothing to do with
0%.
Disney.
We didn't even do the Disney immersive experience, if it's still there. That one time,
left a while ago.
But that one time we were like, oh, it's still.
Yeah, but why not do that?
Yeah,
that was fun when we did do it. But it was a fun trip. It's as far as we're willing to drive, because it's like a 6-hour drive there.
Yeah.
We don't really love driving more than that. People have asked, like, why don't you fly when you live right next to the airport? Flights from Salt Lake to Vegas, although only an hour long, are like $200, $300.
Yeah, they can get a little cheaper, but then you also have to take a taxi or get a car.
If we went with
like
Spirit, maybe that'd be different. Yeah. But I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, or Allegiant. I think Allegiant does a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, we'd have to drive further to get to that airport.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why we just drive that one. And honestly, it's not too bad.
No.
So, especially we had the Olympics to watch there and back. Which, let's not get started on how Peacock doesn't have anything but ads.
So many ads.
Anyway.
And there's no option to pay for no ads.
Well, at least not when we signed up. But I still wouldn't pay extra for it, not because it's expensive enough as it is. Anyway, so what we wanted to talk about today, we did mention it was California Adventure's 25th anniversary on Sunday, the 8th. And so we wanted to talk a little bit more about that, like focus on California Adventure, talk a little bit about like where, like its origins. It's a really fascinating park. The more you learn about it, it's so fascinating where it all came from and how it came together and how like the disaster that it was at the beginning. But like we wanted to basically talk about where it was, where it started, where it is now. And the big question is California Adventure really still California Adventure, which is a big question that everyone always asks, and I know almost universally what people say. I have thoughts.
Well, it's changed. It's not Disney's California Adventure now. It's Disney.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. I
can talk about that.
They got rid of the apostrophe. That changes everything.
They're not talking about that.
No,
they're talking about the California part.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, so, and actually, now that I think about it, that does actually play into my reasonings behind it. But we are going to get into that. Before we do have a new review. Oh, that one is a long one.
Yeah,
that's fun, though.
I like long ones. So it's from Raised in Frontierland, Disneyland Forever, or at least 30 minutes. Get it? Because it's not forever, but it's 30 minutes. That's how long our podcasts are.
Are you having a good time reading this already?
I'm doing well. For a half hour every week, I get to refocus my life priorities on what truly matters, Disneyland California trips. Thank you, Jordan and Daniel and Jordan, for keeping the most important things in life front of mind and doing the important work of informing the general public about a better way of living. We may not all be able to visit the park as often as you two, but you inspire hope in the downtrodden and keep the light on at the end of the long tunnel between one's Disneyland trips. But seriously, thank you. My mother was a cast member in the 1960s and an educator. She was an advocate for frequent Disneyland visits in my youth and for all the intergenerational trauma indicative of her generation. In this instance, I can confidently say she raised me right. I've only recently begun frequenting the park again as I've been raising my own kiddos in Utah for the last 18 years. Ooh. Your podcast has been super helpful in bringing me up to speed on how things work in the land of Disney these days and how to keep my now frequent trips and experiences smooth, whether it's an adults-only trip or I'm introducing my kids to my original classroom of creativity and magical thinking. Keep up the great work as long as you're still having fun.
Yes.
We will always have fun.
That was very entertaining.
Yes. It was a
honestly.
good review.
There was like a whole range of emotions in that one.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We're glad that you see it that way. Honestly, we understand, like, I think everyone knows that level of escapism. There's a reason why Disneyland ride-throughs are so... what's the word I'm looking for? They have so many views on YouTube for a reason.
Not necessarily from 4-year-olds.
I just want to see them.
Yep.
I want to feel it. It's the same kind of thing, and it's fun. We do actually enjoy. It's amazing. It's really fun how often it comes up in just our day-to-day conversation, or people just kind of say like, "So, what's going on at the park?" Or so, I have friends.
Everyone always asks, just when was your last trip? When's the next one?
I have people that say like, "I'm going to Disneyland next week." I'm like, I can answer questions if you want. And they're like, and they even ask like, so is such and such ride going to be open? I'm like, no. Like, and they're like, you know this off the top of your head? Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, I do.
I don't usually know that much, but
It was they were specifically asking about Rise of the Resistance.
Oh.
So that one I knew. If it was any other ride, I'd be like, I didn't necessarily know that, but I follow things enough.
but it's
you'd be
quite
surprised.
possible you did.
Actually, it is quite possible. So it's really nice to know that there's people out there that understand our level of crazy, and that they understand why people like us like to do this sort of stuff and why it brings us joy. So thank you. And then if you have not yet done so yourself, you can leave us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify or Audible. And you can also leave us a 5-star review just like that one, or shorter. Doesn't have to be that one.
I like lengthy.
We also like shorter.
It can be shorter.
It's all good on Apple, and we really appreciate it. And thank you for those who have been sharing our podcast with others so they can hear it, and letting people know. Like it's really helpful to help us get to more people and help us be discovered a little bit more.
Yes.
So because they'll take your word for a lot more than they'll take ours.
Yes.
So thank you guys. We've got just a couple of news things. So we did mention, of course, it's California Adventure's 25th anniversary. That was on Sunday. They did actually have some things. They had specialty maps they gave out. They had specialty pins that just said, I'm celebrating DCA's 25th on it, which is really fun. They've put up a whole bunch of like photo ops. I think some of them were just for Magic Key holders. They put like these selfie booths, like photo booths around that are just for the 25th anniversary. They have Soarin' Over California is officially back for months now.
Because of Food and Wine coming up too. I
Yep.
assume.
So they just started it early.
Yeah.
And then it'll continue through food and wine still. And it's always fun. I keep in mind that if you ever do have the opportunity to schedule your trip for the return of Soarin' Over California, they always give out free cuties on the first day to everyone who comes through. I think until they run out. I don't think it's the entire day. But if you're there in the morning, you can go and you can get a free little cutie. Well, not like that costs very much, but it's just kind of like, remember the orange smell?
Yep.
So there's a lot of stuff going on right now for the 25th anniversary of California Adventure. Not as much as the 70th for Disneyland, but still, the fact that they're doing it at all. Also in California Adventure, there was a big momentous occasion. If you ever saw online something we were talking about cast members signing a steel beam, in any major construction project in a Disney park, when they reach a certain level of completion, which is still pretty early on, they put in like one of the final support beams in a building or a structure, they have cast members from the area come and sign it before they cover it up. And it's just like this rite of passage thing. It's a tradition they've always done. And that has officially happened in Avengers Campus for the new show building and the canopy they've been working on. You will not see them. This is nothing that anyone will see. But it's just that occasion has occurred.
See, since you make fun of my handwriting all the time, I thought you were going to talk about a steel beam signing in an air conditioner because you just put AC.
That's not my handwriting. That's my abbreviations.
I know.
And also, as soon as I wrote it down, I knew he's going to say air conditioning. There's no hyphen. I mean, not hyphen. There's no slash. Usually people
That is
put
true.
A/C.
You forgot the lightning bolt. AC,
No one
DC.
knows that reference.
If you know, you know. Simpsons.
Still don't get it. Anyway, so yeah, that's officially, again, that wasn't about my handwriting.
No, but since you make fun of my handwriting, I will
That's
make
not
fun
my
of your
handwriting.
writing in general.
That's not my handwriting.
You just wrote words.
I wrote 2 letters. Ha. And then lastly, of course, we did talk about the art shuttles that are going to be discontinued. Evidently, there are certain aspects of the art shuttle services that are going to be discontinued before the end of March. Like their on-demand shuttle services, which I know it doesn't get used as often as other things that they do. That will end sooner than the main one. But Disney has confirmed, and it's not like it's a surprise to us at all, but it is nice to hear them confirm it, that shuttle service will continue. Not necessarily art shuttle services, but shuttle services will continue between the Toy Story lot and the Disneyland Resort. So
Don't just have to walk.
yeah, like we mentioned before, Disney's never going to make you walk. So no details on what exactly that will look like, but that they are definitely going to continue shuttling people, which again, no surprises there whatsoever. All right, that's all the news. So getting into California Adventure. Let's talk about this. So let's take you back. We could go back. The origins of California Adventure go back to like
90s.
the early 90s when they were trying to develop a Westcott, the West Coast version of Epcot. It was going to be this amazing theme park, kind of a reinvention of Epcot. Although I still wonder how they were going to do it. It was going to take up basically the same spot, the same footprint as California Adventure now.
When Epcot in Florida is like 20 times bigger than that.
I mean, it wasn't going to be bigger than Epcot.
No.
It was going to be significantly
but-
smaller and approach things in a different way. Like, for example, it wasn't going to have pavilions for each country. It was going to have pavilions for each area of the world. And so that they would have fewer pavilions, but still do a lot in there. So like there was going to be Europe and the Americas and stuff like that, not the UK and Canada and Mexico and stuff like that. It was a big thing. They were definitely going to do it, and then financial constraints, a big ski weekend in Colorado, and then eventually changed their minds, and they came up with the idea of California Adventure because it was going to save them a lot of money. And so the whole initial concept.
And why did they have to save so much money?
Michael Eisner and all
And Euro Disney.
and Disney. It was because Disneyland Paris didn't do well, and
Yep.
and so they were losing a lot of money, and they didn't want to do that again. So they wanted to do something that was going to save them a lot of money. So the cheapest idea they could come up with was California Adventure, and I'm not kidding. That was a big reason why they chose it. It was the cheapest idea they could think of, and so the concept behind it was basically all these people that are coming to visit Disneyland from out of state, instead of having them go throughout the state of California to do sightseeing all over the state, what if we just did a bunch of like the best of California and condensed it all into a single park so they can kind of get like this California experience, but they don't have to go anywhere than just across the way from Disneyland. That was kind of the idea. So everything was driven by that. It had this very iconic motif.
It's supposed to be like a postcard,
The entrance was supposed to look like a postcard. And
which
that's-
it looked cool. I'll
if
give
you
it that.
stood back
very far.
basically as far as the Disneyland gates.
yes.
Because I never knew this while they existed.
Oh, I could
I
tell.
couldn't see it.
Oh,
I never once stood in the middle and looked at it.
I don't know how I found out or whatever. Probably because I'm 400 years older than you. but-
Yeah. But it was after the California letters were gone. So if you ever see those pictures of those letters of California that were in front of the entrance, that was why. If you stood in the center and backed up, it was supposed to look like a giant postcard. And you could see like the sun icon that was just on the other side of the gates and the Golden Gate Bridge and everything. These huge mosaics that were the largest mosaics that they'd created on either side of the entrance. That was all there. And don't come at me and say like, oh, did you know that those letters still exist? Yes, they're at I believe there's the state fairgrounds. Or it's something owned by the state. Disney donated them. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yes, I do know they still exist. They're just not Disney's anymore. Fun Utah tie-in. When Karl Malone moved from the Jazz to the Lakers, they welcomed him and changed the letters to California Adventure.
Are you kidding?
I am not
For
kidding.
the day or something?
Uh-huh.
Oh, jeez.
To welcome Karl Malone to the Lakers.
All right.
In case you're wondering, Utahns don't like Karl Malone anymore. I'm not
Some
kidding.
do.
Some
Just
do.
nostalgically, but yeah.
Mostly-
he's kind of a traitor.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a side note. So originally the lands were, what was the first one? It was Sunshine Plaza. And that one was basically, we don't know what to do, but we're doing a Main Street style area and had the sun icon at the end, which did quite resemble something you might see in a mall. It was supposed to reflect the sun, even though it faced north. So they had to put in things that would reflect the sun back onto it, which didn't really work. Then they had Hollywood Pictures Backlot, which was dedicated to the movie industry of California. You had Golden State, which was dedicated to everything. An area about their aviation history, an area for their national parks, an area for the Bay Area, stuff about their farming and agricultural industry, wine industry, Pacific Wharf, like that particular area of San Francisco. And then they had Paradise Pier, which was supposed to be a boardwalk-style amusement park, which also people have pointed out, like, how ironic.
How ironic when Walt Disney did not want to have something like an old, like, classic amusement park.
But yet Disney built one.
Because they're cheap and were cheap at the time and just bought cookie cutter regular amusement park rides.
Yeah, but I will give them credit that they did work to try and make sure that the area as a whole was themed.
Yeah.
But yeah, individually. The other problem with it, okay, so a couple of major things. Well, Dan, I've been talking a lot. Let's go to, you said your first time was in 2001 or was it 2002?
No, I think it was...
My first time was in 2002.
I think actually mine was 2003.
Okay.
But I do remember going in there being very confused and mostly wondering, why are there only like 200 people in here?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think Tower of Terror was open by then.
No,
so,
it didn't open until 2004.
Maybe it was 4. I don't know. At some point early, like there were a few rides where I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of do a few rides at least. But
I remember going with my family in 2002, and I was like kind of naive in my Disneydom because I was definitely one where Disney did no wrong. But I do remember thinking like, why does this feel different? And yes, there's no one here. So my family and I, even fast forward a few years to 2005, that we were at Disneyland for the beginning of a 50th anniversary celebration, crammed packed that day at Disneyland. We spent the day in California Adventure because there was still no one there, even then. But it felt weird. And yeah, the biggest thing, everyone was like, why are there no one? There is no one here.
Well, there were very few attractions, period. And
very few.
Until about maybe 5 years ago, there was not that many. So
one of the biggest complaints that people had about it is that although the attractions that were there were rated really high, people loved Soarin'. People loved what was then California Screamin'. When it did open, people loved the Tower of Terror. There were they did not love Superstar Limo. We've already talked about that.
Yeah.
But the rides that were there, people really enjoyed them. They thought they were a lot of fun. But they were also like, however, there's not very many.
That was no, wait.
There were more restaurants than there were attractions.
I think I didn't actually get to do Who Wants to Be a Millionaire there because I did it in Florida before they closed. But then I wanted to go back to Disneyland's.
I only did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in California.
So that was fairly high rated. And they had Muppet Vision 3D obviously for many years, which it made me happy because I loved that in Hollywood Studios. But yeah, just it felt very disjointed. I think the Disney Imagineers thought that everything was cohesive because it had to do with California. But yeah, you can't just like say that there is a theme and have it not be a good tying theme.
I agree completely. Another problem they had is that they said there wasn't enough for little kids to do. Because there wasn't. And that's why within a year, they opened up their first expansion of A Bug's Land, which was all for kids.
You can go with your kids and watch a boring movie about Whoopi Goldberg.
It wasn't about Whoopi Goldberg. It just starred Whoopi Goldberg. It was about the history of the state of California. It was called Golden Dreams.
That sounds very boring.
I actually never got to see it. I wish I could have seen it. I would have enjoyed it even back then. I know I would have.
It seems to me that they're like, oh, we should do Westcott. Oh, we don't have the money for it. Let's pick the most boring things that happen at Epcot and make them even worse.
They're cheap.
California, like no one wants to just see boring shows.
But at Epcot, they don't do a lot of movies. They do a lot. They have a lot of things that still have some sort of audio animatronics or some sort of theatrical element.
Well, I was thinking of
they didn't do that in California Adventure.
Canada Far and Wide and those.
I know, but that's like 2 of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
that's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a lot that are just films.
Right.
There's like 2 or 3 that are just films in Epcot. But considering that California Adventure is less than half the size of Epcot, it has almost as many of those as Epcot does.
I did like what's the up and down one? Maliboomer?
The Maliboomer.
Because I like the at Lagoon, but it's not because it's Disney. It's just because it's thrilling to me.
I didn't mind seeing that leave. Another big thing that people didn't like about it is that it was the land of 1,000 puns.
Oh my gosh.
Everything had a pun.
It still does have a lot of
Not
romance.
as many. Not anywhere near as much. Schmoozies and Award Wieners are 2 of the ones that have survived. But beyond them, there's not a lot of others. Before, there was Pizza Mau Mau. There was Burbank Ice Cream. Oh my gosh, what were some of the other ones? California Screamin'. The roller coaster was in and of itself a pun. Everything was a
I
pun.
mean, this was all, the timing of Disney MGM Studios had a ton of horrible puns too.
But they went haywire.
It's so
in California
bad.
Adventure. And everything had this very 90s quality to
I
it.
was totally stuck in the 90s.
Which was bad when it opened in 2001, and that particular style of 90s stuff really had a short lifespan, and so by the time it opened it was already kind of dated.
Kind of like Where We Just Stayed, the New York it comes to mind. Like,
Yes, well, that opened in 1997.
Yeah.
So
Like just this caricatured 1990s.
yes, everything was a caricature.
We're just gonna be funny about California. The idea of Grizzly Peak and kind of some of the natural beauty of California was cool, but they also planted trees that were 2 feet tall. Now it looks amazing.
Yes, Grizzly Peak was one of the few areas that was done really well, but next to it, what is now Grizzly Peak Airfield, was Condor Flats, and it was supposed to be like the like flats. Like it was supposed to be an area of California where it's arid and doesn't have much terrain at all, but it was right up against a mountain, and you could see the Grand Californian from there, and so it was just kind of very jarring because you're like, I'm not getting flat, arid landscape anywhere here. And it made the Grand Californian stick out because it was in a different style. Like it didn't really work. So I was always frustrated by that because there was just a lot of things that like this doesn't really work, but that they still did it.
In Disney's wonderful ideas of trying to save money over the years, they thought, let's have Wolfgang Puck just do a third-party
But that was an
restaurant.
opening day
Yeah,
restaurant.
Yeah, like I think some people went to it, but just the fact that there's no one in California Adventure and people are like,
Oh, it closed really early.
yeah, and it's not a Disney-ish experience at all.
In case you're wondering why it's so big, that's why the Lamplight Lounge is as big as it was, or is, because it was a Wolfgang Puck restaurant.
Well, I liked it when they changed it to Ariel's Grotto. I thought it was a cool character experience,
But that's why the space is so big compared to the other restaurants in the park.
But Disney's done that randomly many times of like...
Robert Mondavi was supposed to supply all the wines for all of Wine Country and California Adventure, but they pulled out after a few years because they weren't selling anything.
See, to me, are we done talking about history? Because I was just going to kind of segue into...
Well, let's kind of do this because I want to kind of just say, like, talk about the changes that have been made, because at the beginning, even though it had its problems, it was very clearly California. Everything was California driven. The only question mark people had was A Bug's Land, but even then they're like, it's for kids. Let's just move on. So like they added in a whole bunch of things. Bob Iger, when he first became CEO, he actually called California Adventure a brand withdrawal because he said clearly this is just one. It was his way of saying this was terrible.
Disney. Yeah.
And so that's why they put a ton of work into California Adventure and reopened it in 2013. One of the biggest changes was that they did technically change the name of the park from Disney's California Adventure to Disney California Adventure. And the reason they said they did that is because before they were saying this is like a Disney-fied version of a California Adventure, and that's why it was possessive. But taking away the possessive is saying, like, no, this is a Disney California Adventure.
They're melded together rather than just like a celebration of California.
Yes, as it's a Disney. And so they even said, like, the idea is more that we want to invite the guests to have their own California adventure with experiences that are inspired by the Golden State. Because people were also saying, yeah, there's a caricature of a Golden Gate Bridge here. I'm still going to go to San Francisco and see the real thing.
Right. Yeah. So to be so naive or self-centered that Disney was, to be like, you're not going to have to go see the rest of California because you can come here. That's just ridiculous. No.
And so that's when they completely changed it. That's when we got Buena Vista Street. That's when they changed it to Hollywood Land and not Hollywood Pictures Backlot. And then eventually down the road, that's when they opened Cars Land, which, by the way, they were always going to put a Cars Land in.
But it was not going to be
It was not going to be based on a Pixar film.
And then, Pixar said, we're going to make this movie about cars. Do you want to collaborate?
Yeah, they wanted to do a land based on California cars culture. And then it just worked out that at the same time, a movie was being developed.
That is a much better idea.
This is when they came, eventually they changed Paradise Pier into Pixar Pier. Eventually we got the addition of Avengers Campus and changing Pacific Wharf into San Francisco Square, eliminating Condor Flats and just making it Grizzly Peak, changing it to what it is today. So now we can talk about, like, with all the changes that have happened, is it still California Adventure?
Yeah, so what I was going to say... walking through the Golden Wine Vinery. Is that what it's
Yeah.
called now? Or what? Yeah. I think that's probably the quintessential remnant of old
Completely
DCA.
untouched.
But I also think it's a wasted space. Because there's so many other places to get alcohol. And the wine, the what do you call them, grapevines that they have growing there, it serves zero purpose other than they get the blight every year and they have to just replant
Well, they
them.
never were going to use them for the grapes. The whole idea is just to give you the idea.
Yeah, but that's, I think, the only major thing that's been kept. So
I don't know if I'd say it's a wasted space because actually it's the only place where it's the best place to get wine. They don't really have wine at a lot of the other places throughout California Adventure other than the restaurants. But like there's beer carts everywhere, but they don't serve much wine other places. And so that's why they still keep it.
But that area to me, I mean, they made it now the DVC little thingy and little lounge.
Magic Key Terrace.
And the place where you can go and learn about DVC and stuff. But even that, like the restaurant itself and the place you get the wine is so far set back that it just seems like a waste to me. But that's also, I don't use it that much, so.
But so I kind of understand where people are coming from, and I will admit things like, because people say like, oh, it used to be soaring over California, now it's soaring around the world. Is it even really about California anymore? I think now when you watch Soaring Over California, the video is so grainy that I don't know how much it would have withstood the test of time.
Oh, probably not.
Now it's as popular as it is because it's only around one time of the year.
Yeah.
And it's not around the rest of the year. And so it has this like
Nostalgic.
this nostalgic and also like catch it while you can sort of quality to it. Whereas if it was just that all the time, I think that they would see numbers starting to dwindle because any other attraction you go to, the projection quality is better.
Well, it also was super confusing to try and take that to Epcot.
Yeah.
And Epcot still brings it back sometimes. And
They've
it's
done
like,
it once.
Or it was just the one time. But
it was confusing.
Yeah, we're like, why are we going around California and Florida? And people, as we've talked about in many episodes, like East Coast people have never been to Disneyland. And maybe some West Coasters have been to Disney World, but they don't necessarily go there saying, oh, I want to see my stuff that I've had at Disneyland. So
Yeah. But I still argue it because especially the queue in Soarin' is still all about the aviation history
That's
of
true.
the state of California.
Yeah, it's a cool area.
They've never departed from that. And so that's where I point to and say like, well, you can't argue with this. This is still about California.
I actually like reading those when you just have to stand in there.
Yeah. With Pixar Pier, some people wonder about that. And I'm here to say like, well, also remember, this is still supposed to be based on a typical California seaside amusement park or boardwalk amusement park. But also, Pixar is very much a California company, just like Disney is.
Yes. Well, yeah, it kind of takes
Emeryville,
the best.
California.
It kind of takes the best of both worlds because, sure, Michael Eisner and Disney wanted to do a like that kind of a theme for that area, but it was also done terribly. So now it's improved.
This is much better than Paradise Pier was. And I don't see how you could argue with San Francisco Square. Yes, it's a fictionalized version of San Francisco, but it's still supposed to take place in California.
Yeah.
It might be a fictionalized version, but it's still celebrating that kind of California.
Yeah, a lot of DCA is not necessarily saying this is like a museum to California almost. It's more just like there's some themes with it. But in general, it just has it's a better amusement park just because it has more rides now and caters to more ages and types of interests with having like Avengers Campus now, although they took out Bugs Land. I wish they would have had both. That would be awesome if they had the room for Bugs Land
If
and
they had room for both, but they
Avengers
don't.
Campus.
One thing about Avengers Campus, and yes, this does make it a little hard because, like, what do superheroes have to do with California? At least in the storyline behind Avengers Campus, the idea is that they are very aware that you're in California.
Yeah, Tony Stark wanted a campus of his.
That's the whole point, is that they're like, there's a campus in the Avengers Campus on the East Coast, like their official Avengers headquarters, and then they're opening up a campus in California and in Paris, and to get new recruits. And so the idea is that, yes, you're in California.
Now,
we get it.
Now, don't get me started on why a hotel has magical is some sort of spacecraft that goes through the galaxy.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense.
Nope.
I'm not saying that like everything is perfect, and obviously you can hear me kind of stretching a little bit to certain extents. Like, how does this count? It just does. I will say the thing that kind of makes it very difficult for me to make sense of it is the upcoming Avatar themed
0% of California.
I have no idea what their argument is going to be for that. I'm assuming that they're going to talk more about it as they give more details about what the land will actually include and what it will entail. I will say at this point, I don't know.
I don't think from here going forward, Disney will try to put it in a narrative of California. That's my take. I think over the next 40, 50, 60 years, it'll just kind of transform into, they may even change the name.
I don't think they're going to change the name because they're having a hard time thinking of names.
That's
but
true.
I think they might. I wouldn't be surprising if they really can't justify the Avatar land. I wouldn't be surprised if they're just more like, this is an adventure park in California, so we're calling it California Adventure. Because there was another park that was built at the same time as California Adventure, Walt Disney Studios in Paris, and this year it's being completely renamed
Totally redone.
to Disney Adventure World. Because it basically has nothing to do with what it originally. In fact, there's hardly any. I don't even think there's anything in it that was there when the park first opened.
Well, and it was funny
They're
too.
completely changing it.
Because at that time, like in the 90s, Disney MGM Studios was big, Universal Studios was big. People had this like fun aspect of trying to like go through movies and kind of see how things were done. But the funny thing about the one in Paris, that no movie was ever made there. So you're like going through this fake thing, having the feeling of like you're going through a studio, but it wasn't a real studio.
Well, that's what the problem was with Universal Florida. They tried, but it didn't really work.
Yeah. At least Disney MGM Studios, they did record a few things, yeah. That's what I loved it at that time because I loved Newsies. I loved what's the Honey I Shrunk the Kids. So like there was a lot of stuff related to that at that point.
But going back to California Adventure, like it definitely is in this transition period. I'm not saying that everything that they do is perfect, and there are things that make me raise an eyebrow and go, That sometimes it's like, I think you're just wanting to do this in California, but there's nowhere else to put it. So you're putting it in California Adventure because that's where there's space.
It will be interesting to see over the next few decades what they do just with the Disneyland Forward project and wanting to put stuff in other parts of Anaheim. Like
if they
who
do.
knows?
I'm still curious if they're going to.
Yeah.
Again, people, they have shared concept art. Concept art. Their point of the concept art was to show the city of Anaheim, if the sky was the limit and you changed the zoning laws to what we wish that they were, this is the sort of stuff we could do.
What was the thing that Bob Chapek did very poorly at that D23 Expo?
He did poorly on everything at the
Well,
Expo.
yeah, but when he's like, we're just going to say the sky's the limit here and talk about these things. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. I can't remember.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Was it him? When they were like, these are...
when they talked about the Zootopia stuff? No, that was Josh D'Amaro.
Oh. Well, anyway, Disney made a big mistake saying...
Yeah, but I don't think that has any bearing on California Adventure's future. That was all about Walt Disney World.
Okay.
So... California Adventure, you have no idea how fascinated I am by this park. Because people get confused when I tell them that it's my second favorite Disney park in the world. And they're like, really?
Not that it used to be that.
I'm like, no, seriously, like it in 25 short years. Like, first of all, even I, back in like 2005, was curious if California Adventure was going to make it to 25 years. And yet here we are. It has gone through such a transformation, and there are like the history behind it and the reasonings why things were changed and why things were done is so weird and like exhibits both the best and the worst of Disney.
It's quite a microcosm of the history.
And like a lot of there's also a lot about it that has to do with the relations between Disney and the city of Anaheim. Like the fact that the reason why the Incredicoaster has those tunnels is because they are scream tunnels. It's to keep the sound of people screaming on the coaster inside the park. That's why they have them. It's not because of any sort of aesthetic reason.
Hey, they used them really well for the retheming.
They do great.
Amazing.
Like, in case you were wondering, they were there before.
They were just there.
But yeah, there's just so much to it that's just fascinating to me. Like the fact that back in Pixar Pier, there's no berm. And so you can see out. And so Disney's had to figure out, like, why did we build a park with no berm? And how do we do this now? How do we prevent this like interruption of the sight lines?
It's, as Jordan said, it's like because they cut so many corners, did so many things like without planning
it was
in the beginning.
First...
But then they've gotten creative with a lot of things, like saying, okay, well, this is the land we have right here. This is what we have right here. What
and
can
it was
we do
their
to make
first
it better?
park designed without the hub and spoke design.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the last one, but it was their first one. And so it's also like, oh, I think they figured out afterward, they're like, we made a mistake because they've created more pathways to get around the park. Because at first there was only that main pathway. That was the only way to get in and out.
That was way too wide and just highlighted how empty the park was. I first went in there, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it was bad when it first opened, and it has become so much different.
But they also, it's a good place to have the booths because there's so much space.
It's worked out. It has worked out. But at the time, it was like, this is a wide open space with no one here. But now it's different. Like, it's a wide open space because we need that wide open space. And they figured out other ways to get people around the park so it's not so congested. But it's been this work in progress for 25 years. It's been really cool to see it change and evolve. From its very, very, very origins. I still remember going to Disneyland when the park was still being built and looking out, and I could see the top of Grizzly Peak, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. They're building another park. That's so interesting that it's just right here.
It's still definitely not a full-day park, though.
No. And I don't know that it ever will be, because it just takes up such a small space.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why people have been complaining that the rides they have are smaller. It's because they don't have the space.
Yep.
And it's one of the downsides to the fact that they took a parking lot and said, this is going to be a new theme park. What are you supposed to do? It only has so much land.
Yep.
It's not like Epcot or Disney World where, quote unquote, they have the blessing of space.
And then they cut court, or they're not doing stuff because of space. So.
Anyway, so next time you're in California Adventure, really kind of, I'd be interested to know, like, maybe we'll put up something on tomorrow about this and just like, do you feel that California Adventure is still California Adventure? Do you see it as maybe it's California Adventure in a different way? And also just walk around and just think about the history that's there, because it's really kind of cool that you can pick out like, I know where that came from.
Yeah.
Or I wonder, you can even take a picture and send it to me and say, Jordan, is this from when the park first opened? And I actually know, and I can tell you yes or no. It's very interesting, very fun.
You and your trivia.
I know, I love it. Anyway, so that's it for this week. Hopefully it's a lot of fun. We've been actually toying with this idea for a very long time. We talked about this, but yeah, we figured this week's a good time to do it. So if you can go and enjoy California Adventure yourself now, use our friends at Getaway Today to help book your next trip, whether it's tickets or hotels or both. They're great to work with. You can use the link in the description.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
And then make sure that you, which by the way, we will try to post better. And make sure that you also subscribe to the podcast, get new episodes as they drop. And then we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.